content in a way that it's presentable for the public. So if they're trained on these different ways, I think the content is going to go online. Let me hand to my neighbor now.
Okay, so I was just going to add around, and we do a lot of work around introducing girls to the internet, introducing girls to technology, and how they can use it to advocate for their rights. And there's so much gap, like there's so much to talk about when you're talking about children's rights, like she said, as a whole. And I must confess there's very little we have done, even though we're taking on rights issues with girls. There's very little we've done around digital rights, around digital security, because there's so much you can do engaging girls in that space. It's something we're going into and trying to expand. But one of the issues we also have is, what are the models? Just like you said, I'm so fascinated by the example you gave around developing content, putting stories of women and their achievements out there. We need a lot of that, particularly for Nigerian women. I am a Tech Women Fellow. We just had a Tech Women delegation visit in March, and we had these fabulous women from tech companies come and engage schoolgirls here in Abuja and Lagos. And I remember we had 80 girls in the room, fantastic. They had all these amazing women to inspire them. But when we were talking about women who have achieved in technology, there was no black woman, trust me. There was no Nigerian woman. We have these women who have also done amazing things around digital technology. It's a long haul for us. We need to put those stories out. Some of us are trying to develop a sort of documentary profiling women who have done things like this. I'm hoping to use that as, you know, sort of a screening exercise, inspiring young girls and encouraging them to go into technology. So these are things, creative things we're trying to come up with on our own part, and we're definitely open to other creative ideas. And I think it's just important we have that on the table.
Right. Thank you very much. We're coming to you, and after that we're going to the main. This is not a woman. How come only women are speaking? What's going on? After those two ladies, I will come to the men. Any man wants to say something, just in case. You never know. Praise God. One man is not intimidated by women. Anyway.
Okay. I'm prompted to talk on this issue, especially that I'm working on a project titled Gender-Based Violence Online in Northern Nigeria. I'm Mariam Adwaranda from the Center for Information Technology and Development. Well, from the results we found in our researches, we realized that this particular issue of gender-based violence online has made so many women to ignore or to avoid using the internet. This gender violence I'm talking about include harassment, intimidation, maybe any form of violence that is targeted at a woman on the internet. And apart from that, there are so many factors that's contributed to this digital gap on the internet. There is this issue of parental control. Mostly, we are northern Nigeria. You know, we are mostly Muslims, and the culture and religion have somehow affected the use of internet by women there. You know, if a woman is married, some of the husbands will deny her access to the internet, or if she's under her parents' control, the parent tends to put a kind of control over the children that they should not use the internet. So these are some of the factors actually that have contributed to this digital breach, especially in the northern Nigeria.
Okay. My name is Benga Adele, and I work with African Center for Citizens Orientation. 2003-2014, I did a project with Federal Ministry of Communication Technology on 1,000 girls in ICT, and I have the opportunity of going to several rural communities, monitoring ICT centers. One thing that I find out, and very striking, was that most of these ICT centers, even in schools and communities, they are sited in male-dominated schools and communities. There is no access for girls and women in communities. They find it very difficult. Like in a school in Zamfara, you have the issue of having two ICT centers, one from NC and And then you now realize that what happened to women and girls in this community, they don't really have access to, to use these facilities. And again, you have the issue of insecurity, both offline and online. You realize that, this community, they don't even have security. And they are like calling for men and women to come and access this facility. And you realize that families will be telling their girls not to go there. There is an access for them to be kidnapped or to, for online bullying and all sorts of. But one thing that I want to look at also is the issue of no data. You can't really know how many young girls have been trained so far when government cited ICT centers in schools and communities. You don't really know, and you realize that young girls in schools and communities, they want these things, no teachers to train them. So you need to build the capacity of teachers and educators in schools for girls to have access to ICT in our rural communities. Thank you.
So it's only the men they are applauding. Okay, there's God. The man in yellow. So musical.
Okay, so I work with an organization called Hip City Hub. We work basically with young people with skills. And I feel that there is a huge gap in terms of how many women or ladies and young girls who are doing jobs that are stereotyped for men. Just recently, ITF released skill gaps and assessment of the gaps in various industries. And if you take a critical look at all of those sectors, you find that men are dominating. But it doesn't also mean that there are no women who are doing those jobs. But most of those jobs are termed men's jobs. So if we have more reportage on women who are doing technical and vocational jobs, I feel that it will go a long way to empower more women to take up jobs, not just because it is called a male-dominated job, but because also we need to begin to break the stereotypes of poverty. Women need to be empowered to be able to fend for themselves, and they shouldn't just wait to do jobs that are gender inclined, say women's job. But if we have more reportage on women riding Okada, tricycles, women doing welding jobs, girls from secondary school can also take up that challenge to learn this skill set. And before you know it, 4 or 5 years down the line, they are well established and they can train other women, and the poverty level would reduce. And lastly, I also believe that with more reportage on this, we'll have women begin to shift their attention from certain kind of skills. So today, what we find is that most of our young ladies are makeup artists. So when the industry becomes saturated, what happens? Redundancy sets in. But if women begin to look at other kinds of skill sets, and then there's some level of dignification of those skills, then more women will take up those skills, and then before we know it, the level of poverty, especially among women and girls, will reduce drastically. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to come back to you both, because everyone's talking about capacity and availability of data and skill set. Blossom, now you are a media editor at Wikipedia. What is your original training? Were you trained to be a content builder? I don't think anyone has a school for that in Nigeria. How did you get there? Because we're talking about what skill sets do we need to bridge the digital gap. I trained, okay, mine is a bad case, because I have degrees in everything. So I should shut up. So what's your own background actually?
Okay, I actually started out studying biology.
What?
Yeah. Yeah, but then there's some classes you study and you get to write a lot. You know, I hated biology because that wasn't what I wanted to do with my life. I think oftentimes, you know, like you see children, you ask them what do you want to be when you grow up. If you actually authentically listen to what they will tell you, that will sort of point you in the direction of what their skill set will be. much later in life. We're not talking of what you want your kids to be. That's a story for another day, right? So growing up, I always loved reading books. When I say books, it's not educational books. I'm talking of novels and stuff. And I love to write as well. So then growing up, I used to see Ruth Benemezia. We have a lot of young people here. I don't think you know her. Ruth Benemezia here. You know her. Okay, I'm not too old there. And then we have Abike, W and Co. You know, Zero Stubber. So I always saw them on TV, and I wanted to be on TV. And I started asking, okay, if you want to be on TV,
seeing how the environmental risk factors of a city and the highways could lead or not lead to injuries or death. So that's when I started the world of like mashups and Google and created my first static pie chart. This was 2010. And using static code for this first time like changed my world. I luckily documented all my learning processes along the way, which is really important, I think, because sometimes when you get to the point where you are now from 2 years ago, a year ago, even 5 years ago, you don't see the progress that you've made, and that's really important. So I've had some really good teachers who were like, yeah, I know you can write, but can you also do the tech? And just slowly just push someone to push you a little bit, to step out of that comfort zone and get you to try something that's exciting that you might not first think you can do it because you don't have the skill sets. There are tutorials online. All you need is a connection. But yeah, so to answer your question, I worked on data, but it was in closed systems. It was with EVs, like stats, programs. Stuck in academia, it wasn't shared with the world. As we know, like a lot of journals, academic journals, are not open access. So there's a lot of things around that's problematic, around knowledge sharing between different stakeholders. So that's how I kind of got to the world of data.
Right. So you don't need to start out as this. Henry Mena, you're welcome. But someone can push someone. That's what I got from it. And if they push you, please allow yourself to be pushed. Don't be afraid. Learn what you can. There's a lot of materials that can help us train ourselves. And follow your passion. Be who you are. And you do better when you're doing what you love. When I was graduating, we did not have anyone reading computer technology at that time. We had people doing every other thing, but not just, we had statisticians, mathematicians, but not anyone doing computer. And it was later on that people started doing computer technology and IT and all of that. So here we are. We've got a few bribes of recommendations, and I'm going to come back. The people who are on that table, I'm going to come back to you, sir. You see that table over there? There's a lady who's fixing her hair nicely, well dressed, nice hair, well done. We're going to go to that table, and the question is, what do you think we should do to move things forward? Because we can't just raise all the issues and not also share. Put the mic down, let them decide what it is they want to share with us.
Based on the work we do, I believe in Nigeria, a lot of teenagers, a lot of young internet users are digitally excluded. So sensitization and training, educating them on the importance and getting the government involved in making provisions of an ISP, and instead of going to their schools to paint their schools, at least set up ICT labs in various schools to get them digitally included.
What I wrote here is catch them young.
Yes.
Yes. Correct. There's a gentleman who had his hand up. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm back Emmanuel from Federal Ministry of Information and Culture. I just want to talk from the point of view of education, just to support what the panelists have already spoken. We need to work on our educational system. It's unfortunate, that's the reality, but it's not a good news. But we have a system, an educational system, that emphasizes, possession of certificates, you know. And so somebody just rushes in and comes out with a certificate. We're supposed to have a system that emphasizes self-discovery, self-development, so that somebody will be able to, instead of somebody telling you what to read, you discover yourself, develop yourself in the educational system, and then come out to do something. So it's really a huge challenge, but it can be done. Whatever we're doing, if we're not getting it right in the educational sector, where almost everybody passes, I mean, even from primary, we find out that we end up, you know, not getting it right. Somebody like Cyprian Ekwensi, he was known as a writer, a very popular writer, but he read pharmacy in the university. So it is important for somebody to discover himself or herself, then develop yourself along that line. That's how it will be possible for us to make headway. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You see this middle row, there's a gentleman at the last table with the Jonathan Goodluck hat. His name is Pons Letileji. Pons, I visited your center in Gambia, and I noticed that there were young girls there who you were mentoring. What do you foresee these girls will do tomorrow, and what is their role? Because people are saying catch them young, but you are already, you've caught some young, you are grooming them. So the question is, what do you foresee what are you grooming them for, basically?
Yeah, thank you, Nena. I'm happy to say 90% of my staff are women. The reason for that, the reason for that is not far-fetched. In the Gambia, we had a lot of issues with young people going out, illegal migration. If you check per population of 2 million people, over 20,000 young Gambians before Yahya Jammeh was kicked out, forced their way through the Mediterranean. A lot of them died, and in most cases, in most homes, it's the girls that basically run the homes. They are the ones that work. And so I've always had that philosophy because of the orientation in the Gambia, where women are the ones that take the lead roles, is to develop these women. And we are a service-oriented country. And when being a service-oriented country, what most of those women are doing are trying to develop content. That's why I like what Lucy said about developing content. And this content is focused on what is happening in their communities. So right now, I have 10 sets of young women that are mapping flood areas in the Gambia. Because every rainy season we have floods, and they are mapping flood communities and passing this information to UNICEF, the World Food Program, so that they know these disaster areas. And these young girls, what they are mapping, they are working with women in those communities. You know, and that is the way to address this problem. And the women, in most cases, are the ones giving the content. Okay, apart from doing the mapping using maybe MapMe or one other open source software on your phone, they also visit the community. So I think one way I will encourage young people, when you look at yourself as a young person, for you to start with content generation, you have to look at from the community you come from. Whether it's your village, what happens in your village? Where's the borehole in your village? What do women do? So those are what drives the content, because that is what we will talk about. So basically, my story, what I do in my center, is to encourage these young women I work with to look inward into their community. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll come to you, your table is a good one. Simi, welcome. How are you? I know you have a bunch of girls that you're trying to bring up here in Nigeria, north and south, east and west. What do you foresee these ladies being in the future? What would they bring to the digital economy in Nigeria? How will your role through these women reach the digital divide? Not just in Nigeria, but the whole world over.
Thank you, Nina. So I know one of the things that excites me the most about what we do is the possibilities.
Please, what do you do? It might just be between me and you. I don't know as a moderator. What exactly do you do?
So I run a non-profit, and one of the things we do is to train girls in underserved locations how to code. So we literally take girls who basically never touched the computer before, spend like 6 months with them, train them up to the extent that they can build a website on their own and all that. So digital literacy, software development. We have a center in Niger State where, so right now there's training going on there. We do things in Kano, Kaduna, Abuja as well. So it's exciting. I say what's exciting is that these are girls who did not have possibilities before. I mean, their possibilities were really limited. I'll share an example. I remember one of the orientations we had, I asked all of them, what do you want to be? And they all said, at the end of that, it had changed. They had, because now they had more opportunities. So I see these girls becoming, with more mentorship, with more exposure, I see them becoming key actors in the tech space in Nigeria, all over the world, and with more exposure. And that's what I see. I mean, with the more we begin to do things like this all over, just empower girls. And then there's that thing about showing them role models. I think someone talked about that, because while I was standing hearing that, it was a lady, she said, I mean, they were all in the room and they didn't see black women. I mean, they couldn't talk about black women who were achieving in tech and all that. So I know that's one thing also, that by the time they need to see more people that are like them, they begin to think, okay, I can actually do this. And for us, all our trainers are female. And because we say they have to see people that are like them doing all those things. So I see 10 years down the line, these girls who literally did not know anything before can be developing the next innovations for all the troubles, I mean, some of the problems we have, challenges and all that. So, yeah, so that's what I see.
Thank you very much. Give the mic to the lady who gave it to you. My sister, come here.
Where to go to and where not to go to. Because what we parents we are scared of is maybe from there our daughter will learn all sorts of bad things, and from there she will become bad thing to the society. So we can teach her all these things. You can use the internet in a positive way, not in a negative way. And I think women should be involved in all levels of the creation of internet, when it comes to the use, creation and development, even to the imagination of what the internet will look like. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much. We're going to come to this table and then two or three more other thoughts, quick thoughts. Okay, 1 here, 2 here, and 3 and 4 over there. No, here first.
Thank you so much. My name is Gilka, and I'm a TV host at a technology TV. I talk about technology. What we're talking about right now, I feel very passionate about it because I'm actually not living my dream. I'm living my mom's dream. I originally wanted to be a meteorological scientist, and then, while I was in JS3, and when you're crossing over to SS1, you have to take the courses, and then they separate the wheat from the tares, And then I told my parents, I wanted to be a meteorological scientist, and my dad is like, hell no, that's for a man, And then I got into school, studied mass comm, did everything, and while in school, we discovered that there are some departments in school that when you hear the name of the department and you see a girl in the department, you're like, whoa, this girl, jeez. You see her, you're like, she's the only girl in the whole department, like engineering, architecture. When you hear a girl say, what department are you in? Architecture, you're like, yeah, are you kidding me right now? So I think we need to talk to our parents, we need to talk to parents, let your child live up their dream, You might probably not be happy, the kids might not be happy with it, but you just get used to it over time, you understand? So we need to fire the girl child, and then let her take up courses that she feel, okay, I'm good with it. Let us not streamline this thing to just males, and okay, we have male engineers only, and females. Thank you.
Thank you very much. No, we have to come this way. Sorry.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm Ifel Lua. I work with Premium Times. I'm a journalist. One of the major issues I think we should also be looking at is exposure as well as access. Some of these, not even only girls now, most people don't have it. They are not exposed to this technology that most of us, are exposed to. For example, my younger brother, with my phone, he uses it a lot better than I do. And he's about 12, 13 years old. Why? Because he's been exposed to technology even at a very young age. And some things I never got to, do with my phone because I was distracted by work or some other things. He had the time to do that, and he got into he got so much knowledge that I didn't get, that I don't even know about. But there are some children who don't have access to this kind of technology, maybe because they are poor, or they live in an environment where such is not available to them. And then looking at the the microphone lady said about, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm sorry. Because of the nature of a person, probably they like to take selfies. Maybe that's what they are looking for in a phone. Maybe they don't care about the other aspects because that's not what they want the phone for. They want it for that particular, some people might use their laptops for those things that maybe other people are using their phones for. So, thank you.
We're going to the last table on our right. I heard there was a hand over here. Okay, that last table, and we'll come here.
Hello.
1 second. The two men filming here. Oga, one of you will speak. So decide which one it is.
Am I okay to fire?
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. My name is Tizakia. Ko is my surname. I'm the Youth Internet Governance Ambassador for Liberia. My issue is about the topic under discussion. The benchmark is from Egypt and Nigeria. These are very two powerful countries in terms of ICT now. For me to learn from them, the benchmark for me, I think is very, very high. That's just a comment on the whole side. Number two, the issue of empowering girls in terms of ICT with respect to social media, empowerment, digital XYZ. I'm not hearing about the risks involved in empowering the girls. Most of the ladies or the females that are getting this education, believe you me, some will testify that I'm right. Some of them are using it for extreme cases. I mean, I don't want to go on the other side though. They send pictures and the rest and inviting some businesses in the rest. That's just on the low side. So my point here is, once I'm empowering you, give me the risks involved in using it positively. At the level of the Youth Internet Governance, what we're doing is positive use of social media, positive use of the internet. So I'm telling you that the internet is there not for social media. I'm telling you it's there for you to do research on mathematics. Download a video from YouTube to learn algebra. That is what I'm looking at. So that's my position. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. We're coming to the lady in red. For one more. Okay. Go for it.
Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. Well done, the panelists, and to everybody seated here. I just have a few thoughts on empowering women in ICT. First thing is, I think that we also need to look at the girls in terms of career, in terms of even toys. I told somebody one day, I said, and fingertips and all those kinds of stuff, whereby the guy is being mentally built. So I think that from that angle, women also need to look at that seriously, especially those of us who have children, so that they begin to build them up. Then secondly is the fact that the use of the internet is also very good, but what we use it to do eventually affects how we turn out. Now, I said my name is Chinwe, I'm a network engineer, I'm an IT person, I do media stuff, I do a lot of work, and alright, so, but the thing is, it's not been very easy because I've had instances where at work, I climb a ladder to try and fix a switch or a router or anything, and the women pass by and they tell me to come down from the ladder.
What is the word there?
Yes, I don't know. Some of them come to shake like, come on. I'm like, come on, I know what I'm doing. And they say, no, it's a man's work. There are men everywhere. Ask them to do the work. And I tell them, no, nobody here can actually do this work. So I think that's another thing too. And the thing is, women also, we need to stand up and take what is ours. I don't believe in affirmative action. Sorry, apologies to everybody. But I think that you shouldn't wait to be given 30% when you can actually have 80 or more. So, in the use of internet and the things that we do with work, we need to stand up as women and negotiate mentally now, alright? Not because I am a woman, they should give me something. No. If you want something, work for it, earn it. And that's the only way you can actually be proud of what you have done. Then lastly, my final thought is the fact that women have not been able to synergize enough. I mean, the panelists seated there, thank God you have gotten to the top of the ladder, but I also want to encourage and say that deliberately mentor people, right? Because you won't be there forever. Whether you like it or not, at some point your face will go. You will be faced out or you face yourself out. Either way, something will happen. And so if we are deliberate about mentoring, if we are deliberate about empowering other women, if we are deliberate about having women ride on our shoulders, we have suffered. The other one doesn't have to suffer. That's the truth, right? If we do that, I think that was a better way.
That's a man. But that does not involve these two men. No, there's a guy here. Okay, are you the one speaking? The other one is you are the one speaking. Okay. No, Femi then over there will come. Because these men will have to give them, want to hear them. Femi, I know. But I'm also the father of 3 daughters. And you're the father of 3 daughters? Of 3 daughters. From one woman? Yes. Okay. That's my knowledge about break. And I believe one of my responsibilities in life is to make sure my daughters can get to the pinnacle of who they can be as human beings, not just as women. Something I've observed in our work, and I think it reflects what the previous speaker said. In our program, we run our kids. They will leave the boy in the programming class, and they will take the girl back home with them. From as young as 5. From as young as 5, they're already programming the kids that this is for boys and this is for girls. I think, I told people in my daughter's school, the whole society is going to discriminate against your daughter. It will be worse if you start the discrimination at home. And I think that's something we need to re-emphasize. I discovered a bedtime story book which I use with my daughters. It's called Bedtime Stories for Rebel Girls. And every night we read a different story about a real life woman that has done amazing things. But I don't just read the story for them. Once we're done, my daughter picks my phone, navigates to YouTube, and then we watch a video of the woman. Whether she's a runner, whether she's the lady that programmed the computer that took the first astronauts to the moon, and she did it by hand. Whether it's a musician, whether it's Serena Williams. I get these girls to realize there is nothing you cannot become. I think parents do a disservice to their daughters if they don't start this from home. And I think it needs to be embedded. We lose a lot of the opportunities that our societies can get to evolve because a whole more than 50% of the population, we stifle their voices. And then the third thing, which was some research that I'm interested in, we haven't done, I'm throwing it out there in case some other person wants to do it. When kids start in school, the way school is structured, everybody studies everything. There are certain key moments when women start reducing in their potential to be studying sciences or the engineering. A key inflection point in Nigeria is what someone said at the GS3. When you're going from junior secondary to senior secondary, you have to make the decision, am I going to the arts or the sciences? It's a major point where women drop off. And I kind of feel that it may even be different in a girls-only school versus a co-educational school. My belief, my personal theory is that it's probably easier for a woman to study sciences and engineering in a girls-only school because someone needs to be in the engineering class. But in a boys-only school, a girl that is going to engineering is most likely to be seen as a tomboy, which is probably also not good for her rep. But again, someone needs to study this with empirical data. I studied electrical electronics engineering at the University of IFF. The way the parents allowed him to try things out, that made him come to where he was, able to create the web and say, give it to the whole world, and let everyone find opportunity in it. I don't know if I've been a good moderator, but I really don't care at this point. My time is up. Bye.
What? Group picture. Bit of, sorry.
Where should we start? Okay.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you again to our panelists. We have one more main session to go, and I know a lot of us had a really good lunch, so I'm going to quickly just ask everybody to just stand up, take a minute, just 30 seconds to stretch your feet. We have one more panel to go. If you came with your business cards, or maybe, just introduce yourself to one person here today that you have not met. Let's quickly just get some blood flowing before we hit the last panel for the day. So stand up, stand up, stand up. I'm waiting. We will not start till everybody stands up. Go and introduce yourself to somebody you have not met today. Stretch the legs, get the blood circulating, and we'll resume the final panel. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's get set. Our last panel conversation for this day is about to happen. Okay, now it's like everybody's actually into this. Please, can we take our seats now? We'll be moving on to the next panel, which is the main panel and the last one for today. Stop Press, Media versus Government in the Digital Age. So please, let's make our way back to our seats. Please, you can continue with the tweeting and the hashtag IFF 2018. But let me go ahead and call up the moderator for this panel. He is Abdulatif Dahir, a journalist with Quartz Africa based in Nairobi, Kenya. So let's do this last panel and call it a day.
Yeah, thanks so much. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everybody. Awesome. Well, this is the last session of the day, and it's going to be it's called Stop Press, Media and Government Overreach in the Digital Age. And we're going to be talking about some of the pressing issues that, a lot of you or a lot of governments and a lot of people in social media in this continent have been discussing and have been talking about in recent days, months, and years. And I'm just going to call up the panelists who are, I think, all here. Tolu Adeleru, a broadcast journalist with over 10 years experience in broadcast journalism. A round of applause, please. There's, of course, Tolu Ogunlesi, the Nigerian journalist and poet, and of course, the special assistant in digital and new media to President of Nigeria, Muhammadu Buhari. Henry Maina from Kenya, Article 19, who's literally just arrived. And last but not least, we have Dapo Olorunyomi, who is the publisher of Nigeria Tribune Times. Thank you.
No, if you want exclusive, special.
Please.
So I'll see you, right? I'll come because you're coming. How would I look like? No, I'll come because you're coming. I will be. Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. All right. So I'll see you then. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as I said in the beginning, my name is Abdi Latif. I am a correspondent with Quartz Africa. I report, I'm based in Nairobi. And this is going to be a very interesting session. I know a lot of you have questions and queries, and you're going to have enough time to actually have an interactive session after this. But I wanted to start this by giving the floor to our panelists and give each and every one of you a minute or two to tell us about the current thing that you're working on. And then also, I know we are majority Kenyan and Nigerian, so let's probably take a minute or two discussing how the relationship between the government and the press, mostly in Kenya and Nigeria, and if you want to give other examples in other countries, that is also allowed, and especially in the context of digital media and some of the sensitive issues that it's raised and over the last few years. Tolu?
Good afternoon, everybody. So my name is Tolu Adeleru Balogun. I work with Nigeria's leading talk news and sports radio station. I've been doing that for a few years now. And I tend to find myself in the sort of the middle point between the government and the CSOs as well as the NGOs in this conversation about digital rights. I report what government does. I have the CSOs and the NGOs on shows talking about digital rights, helping them to push the initiatives and push things like the Digital Rights Bill. So I'm also almost like the person who accumulates all of the conversations happening on both sides of the divide. And interestingly enough, in the past few years, the conversation has definitely increased. But for me on this side, it's difficult when you want to talk about digital rights when the majority of Nigerians are still struggling to provide the bare necessities for themselves or even to eat breakfast in the morning.
at this point of print media. Then, broadcast was not in that mode. So government, not really. Because it's that media had gone through in this 86 when we had the first, had this kind of one of the biggest victories given so available. Perhaps we know media practice had made this inoperative because nobody is going to accept it. And the judicial relates the whole stratum of harassment, detention, including murder. Crime Act, which has actually not prosecuted Nigeria, that the institutions of the media, both at the level of a society framework, I would say that pretty much things have changed.
Mr. Journalist, right? And I want between the government and social media use, and why is it that all of a sudden the government is very interested?
The government didn't just start to be interested in media. A major press conference that in Nigeria, a well-known now, and once the political office holder got to hear only one newspaper of all the people who attended, only one newspaper reported the press conference. So having an interest in media is not new. In fact, once upon a time, the biggest media went owned. So there's nothing new about government wanting, as you said, in elections and all that. I know a lot of people, for many people, our first major event on Facebook was the 2008 US elections, the Obama elections. And so we were looking forward to our own opportunity. And 2011 was that opportunity. And then we happened to have a consolidation of sorts. And then maybe in 2015, I don't know, this is just anecdotal, but maybe the emphasis share bill and all that. Again, as I always say, government is not a monolith. Government is not one single thing. So whilst one or two legislators may have decided to come up with a bill, a social media bill, it doesn't mean that it's everybody. So you always find that spectrum of opinion. There will be people who don't care. There will be people who care a lot, the hardliners and all that. What you will find people within governments who, just as I hear, active journalists being hounded by government, that there often will be people within the security services who were sympathizers, who would often sometimes hint people and say, look, you have to leave your house now. So that digital freedom continues to be the order of the day.
I think it's an understatement to say that government only wants to have a finger in the game. We can see it across the continent. Government doesn't want a finger in the media game. Government literally wants to regulate and almost to a point control what the media is doing. Yes, we were successful in finding a way to shut down the social media bill, but that came with sustained and consistent advocacy on the part of many NGOs and media. And there was actually a lot of international attention on that. So no, it wasn't fast. It was consistent, it was sustained. And because Nigerians had gotten a taste of how it was to be able to come online and either directly engage with a senator or a House of Rep member or any politician, they had gotten a taste of that, and that was something that the government was not going to find easy to take away from them. So I think, again, in part of this digital conversation about the digital rights, when people can understand truly how much freedom it gives them, how much ability to hold governments accountable it gives them, how much transparency they can also demand, when they get that taste, they won't want to give it up as easily as before. So it's an understatement to say that government only wants a finger in the game. It's really just not necessarily special. We just choose different means of finding an answer to that. And the job I've been doing now, it has been quite interesting. In the beginning, we were being monitored by federal government, and we had the regulator constantly on our case. I still occasionally get a love letter from the regulator as it is now. But part of this conversation also has to take into cognizance something that my colleague here said about co-opting, which is, it's not even just as simple as being co-opted into sort of playing the government's game, but licenses can easily be revoked. Fines of 500,000, 1 million and upwards can be instituted in the blink of a hat. A company can be told to remove an OAP or a broadcaster from air, and if they don't, government can come down on them. So we have to have a conversation around not necessarily just co-opting, but the power of those who are meant to regulate the space without even having independent individuals involved or even media organizations involved in that regulation. So the Say No to Media bill is gone. We have an NGO bill that's still there. Are we going to have a conversation about that? That may not necessarily be targeting the media directly, but who does the media do its work with when it is holding government accountable? Who does the media work with when it is holding government, when it's asking them for more transparency? I've worked with organizations like PIN, I've worked with EIE, I do work with budget, and I know that my content is richer for the content that they provide. I have more ability to educate Nigerians on what's happening in a small village somewhere that has had a 25 million naira write-off to provide a solar power borehole. But 3 years later, there's no borehole. I wouldn't be able to have that content and I wouldn't be able to have that conversation if the NGOs and the CSO organizations that were involved didn't have the ability to do that. So we also have to look at the partners in the space as well who help the media to be able to have these conversations, especially on my side of the divide where I'm from. Rights and keeping everybody safe online. And then the point about bloggers, this is the 21st century, you have to expand. It's no longer, the traditional media is no longer newspaper and broadcast. It's no longer newspaper and television. When we now talk about media, if a blogger's rights are threatened, my rights are threatened. And I think that's a conversation that media people within themselves also need to have. Because typically we like to say bloggers are not journalists and sort of push them into the corner somewhere. But if the rights of a blogger is threatened, my rights as a media person is also threatened. If they can come for them and nothing happens,